These are some pretty great sounding speakers right here, but they take a lot of work to get to the point where they sound as good as they can. And with that being said, I am AV obsessed, and if you're watching this channel, that means that you probably are too. And these are the Focal Vestia #1 bookshelf speakers. So the Focal Vestia #1, it is a, I would call, medium-sized bookshelf speaker. Currently the cheapest, like normal bookshelf speaker in Focal's lineup. I'm not counting the Sib Evo because that's their little tiny, like satellite style speaker. But currently these are the cheapest Focal bookshelves that you can get that are conventional bookshelves. It was, when these first came out, the second cheapest, because the Thivo was cheaper, but now for some reason these have been getting discounted a lot, at least at Crutchfield. I don't think I've really looked at many other places, but when I picked them up from Crutchfield, they were $979. Now they are at $864.06, which is the most random price I've seen in a long time. It's kind of making me wonder if they're already discontinuing these speakers. It'd be weird if they are, because they did just come out last year, but you know, it's weird that they're doing such strange stuff with the pricing. But two-way front-ported bookshelf speaker that stands 15 1/4 tall, so it's kind of on the taller side for a bookshelf speaker, but then it's only 8 5/8 of an inch wide and 10 3/4 of an inch deep, and weighs in at 15.4 pounds. So they're pretty light, and they're not too deep and they're not too wide, but they're a little taller than usual. And so on the front of the speaker, you get the 1-inch M diaphragm aluminum magnesium alloy tweeter. The reason they call it an M diaphragm is because instead of just being Focal's normal, like completely inverted dome, it actually goes out a little bit at first and then it dips in. So like if you look at a cross section of it, it's an M shape. And then 6.5 inch, what they call a carbon fiber polymer woofer with a nice rubber surround and a nice aluminum trim ring around it. And then a decent sized front port. That front port is very important when it comes to this speaker's performance, but we'll get to that in a little bit. It's a pretty easy speaker to drive at 89.5 dB sensitivity and nominal impedance of 8 ohms, although Focal does say that it does dip in the bass region down to 4 ohms, and power rating rated for anywhere between 25 and 120 watts, and frequency response of 56 hertz all the way up to 30 kilohertz. Talk about how the speakers actually sound. Starting off with the bass, there really isn't a whole heck of a lot to speak of. The manufacturer says that they go down to 56 hertz. In my room, according to my graphs, I did get a pretty decent response right around 45 hertz, but there is like virtually no room gain with these because of the front port. Normally with a speaker like this, if it was rear ported, if you're not happy with how much bass you're getting out of them, you could start putting them a little bit closer and closer to the front wall, and you'll get more and more room gain the closer you get to the front wall. With these having the front port, you don't get that at all. Some people might consider that a good thing, and I guess technically it probably is, but if you like a little bit of a boost in the bass, you are definitely gonna require a subwoofer with these speakers. And then the mid-range is a little bit accentuated, as you'll see in the graphs here. There's a pretty decent rise in the mid-range, and then it falls off. The speakers actually fall off at about 1,000 hertz. And then anything above 1,000 hertz, it's all pretty rolled off and relaxed sounding, almost to the point where if you are coming from or you prefer a speaker that's a little bit more on the forward side or brighter side of neutral, these speakers almost sound muffled by comparison. And so really, it really just isn't my cup of tea. Like, these speakers aren't exactly to my taste out of the box. But if you are running them on anything that has abilities to do tone controls, like if you're using a WIM device and you have access to that EQ, whether you're using the parametric or graphic EQ, or like what I was using when I was playing the Blue Sound Node Icon, which has much more simplified tone controls, which that's actually going to be one of my complaints about the unit. But if you blend in the subwoofer properly to fill in the low end, and then like in the menu for the Node Icon, I added 4 decibels to the treble on these speakers, then they sound fantastic. Like, this is going to be the graph. This is the graph right here of when I had the speakers blended in with the subwoofer, and it integrated extremely well with them. And then also with the treble tipped up 4 decibels. It's still not exactly what you would call a flat frequency response, but it sounded really good in my room. It sounded really good to me. So these speakers out of the box are not going to it's not going to be to everybody's taste. It's not to my taste. But when you take a little bit of time, and if you have the know-how to dial them in, they sound really good. Sound staging is excellent. There is really good depth to the sound stage, and like very good stereo separation between like the singer and the instruments, like placement in the room. Yeah, the speakers don't misbehave in any way. The only misbehaving that I heard from them was when I showed you the graphs, you could see I ran them at 70, 80, and 90 decibels for the reference volume, and at 90 decibels when it was doing when the tone sweep was first starting, playing in the single digits for hertz range, and then moving upwards. When it was between like 20 and 40 hertz, the woofers were over-excurting a little bit and making a little bit of mechanical noise. That's the only kind of misbehaving that I heard from the drivers of these speakers. So they're using excellent drivers. It's just the way that they tuned them from the factory in the crossover, essentially. They didn't really tune them to have very accentuated bass, and they rolled off the upper mid-range and all of the treble region to give them a very laid-back, relaxed sound. So if that's if that's your cup of tea, if that's the type of speaker that you like, then definitely buy these. And if you're perfectly fine with tuning the sound to get them to the point where you would like the way that they sound, then also they're a great speaker to pick up, because for under $1,000 for a pair of bookshelf speakers that have a very, very nice high gloss or real wood veneer side panels, and then it has this like pretty decent quality faux leather wrap that goes around all the way from the front to the top to the back and the bottom. Most speakers in this price point, you're just going to get a cheap vinyl wrap. They actually look like you spent some money on your speakers, and they don't just look like you spent some money on your speakers. They actually, once you tune them to the way that you like, they will sound like you spent a lot of money on your speakers as well. And they don't take up a lot of room. And so, I mean, they get this is kind of an oxymoron, but I would say that these speakers get a pretty strong tentative recommendation. I wouldn't recommend these speakers for anybody who's not going to tune them in any way. Someone who's just going to hook them up to an AV receiver and then basically that's it. That's all they're going to do. They may not be too happy with the sound that they get from these speakers. I mean, possibly if you're using something that has like Dirac or Odyssey and you actually run, because apparently like I think what I heard from somebody from like Massimo or something like that, that only like 40% of AV receiver owners actually run the built-in calibration to set up their receiver. So yeah, if you're one of those people who plugs your speakers into a receiver and then just lets them play, you're probably not going to be particularly thrilled with the sound of these speakers. But if you take just a little bit of time, especially if you like pick up a U-Mic 1 or a U-Mic 2 from Mini DSP or one of the other calibrated microphone options and use REW, which is how I kind of tuned the frequency to get them as flat as I could get them in my room, they sound really, really good because they respond very well to the to tuning, basically, to adding and stuff like that to the frequency response. So tentative, strong recommendation, as nonsensical as that sounds. So if you guys liked this video, then make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so that you're notified whenever videos come out. I'm really hoping that the next video that I could do will be a review of Sonus Faber Lumina 2s. There's a local shop near me here in Southern California that I'm going to see if they will lend me some speakers that I've seen that they have. And then I would love to do after that a direct comparison between the Focal Vestia #1s and the Sonus Faber Lumina 2s. And that would be like kind of an interesting France versus Italy battle of the speakers video. So if you guys want to see that, make sure that you like and subscribe. Spread this video around. If any of you guys are in like audiophile forums anywhere or Reddit threads or anything like that, share this video. Just get this channel going, because it might be an unrealistic goal, but I would really like to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And if you guys make that happen, that would be awesome. So thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.